Good morning. I always feel like I'm in an Airwolf movie when I'm wearing one of these things. That panel discussion was incredible. So thank you, John, Shub, and Renee. And I would like you just to keep that in the backdrop when I'm discussing or taking you through what I'm about to discuss with you today, because I only have 20 minutes, but the points that were discussed were absolutely on point and probably the best panel discussion I've heard before. Yesterday, I actually attended, as a matter of interest, the Healthcare Innovation Summit at Emperor's Palace. And geez, man alive, does the healthcare industry have some challenges. But one thing that stood out for me, and just listening to 𝐂𝐴's talk earlier around open banking, is that there's big problems in the healthcare industry that need to be solved, but they've got to be solved by looking at your, let's call it, high net worth or people that are digital savvy, and also looking at the mass market. So if we take telehealth as an example, and we think about the patient to doctor ratio in a country like Nigeria. I mean, these are scary stats, but 4 doctors to 10,000 patients. So why do I mention this? Because there's been quite a lot of crossover between telco, financial services with embedded finance, and so on and so on. And so, I'm talking to you today about the art of customer acquisition in BFSI, but I do think, just keep it in the back of your mind, that there is an opportunity, and we are seeing this unfold with many people in financial services and the telco space actually taking to the market e-health services. Just an idea I thought I'd leave with you. Sorry, Mark, I know this is awkward, but would you mind bringing me my water? Thank you. Anyone, thank you very much. So I consider myself to be really blessed, having started my corporate career in banking. I don't know how many of you here remember NBS Bank. So we talk about innovation, and there was phone banking that was launched by NBS Bank when I still lived in Durban. So I was 19 years old, and I was a call center agent for NBS Bank, and people would call in and we'd have to do some security questions. And security has always been important in banking, and I remember we had to ask a series of three questions. So like, what city were you born in? What is your favorite color? And I remember the same gentleman coming back to me over and over again, and I'm saying, sir, what is your favorite color? And I just remember that answer, shiny black dots. That was our security measures in those days, and how things have kind of evolved. So since my time in banking, I've also, then ventured into a couple of startups myself, and one of them being a debt collection business. So I've pretty much spent my career in the sales, distribution, marketing, and collection space. So I'm really delighted to take you through some of the learnings around customer acquisition that we've picked up working across Africa. But one of the things that remain constant is that customer acquisition will always be a focus for financial services businesses. And I spend a great deal of my time working with business leaders in financial services, talking about the challenges that they want to address and solve. And so they may be articulated slightly differently or prioritized in a different order, but essentially it all comes down to these 5 things at the moment. And the first one is, we want to be able to create a single view of our customer, right? And we need to do this because we want one source of the truth. Our data is scattered across a number of different systems. Number two, we need to get better at lead management. You know, we're generating leads, and in most financial services businesses, you're dealing with high volumes of leads coming in from a multitude of different channels. But many financial services businesses haven't mastered the art of tracking leads from the time they are captured to the time they become a customer. And when you get this right, business leaders understand that this does have an impact on improving your lead to sale conversions. The next one is giving customers the option to buy your products or take up your products, online in a self-service type manner, 24 hours a day. Not everybody's preference is to sit and, go through, calling through into a call center. And so some of us may refer to that as putting in place a digital channel or self-service channel, but that is certainly something that, comes up in most of our conversations. You heard in the panel discussion before my slot that automation of sales processes comes into play. And yes, absolutely, it's never a good idea to automate a bad process, but essentially at a high level right now is that a lot of tasks and activities in organizations today take place manually, and even in, our top 4 banks, if you want to call that, here in South Africa, and top insurance companies. And so business leaders are trying to create more efficiencies when it comes to automating sales processes. And then the fifth one is around turning teams into high-performance teams. So we've got volumes of people out in the field. We've got lots of agents sitting in our call center, but are they producing the results at the velocity we need them to? So how do we enable them with the right tools to be able to become high-performing, aligned teams, to break down these silos that have existed, for decades? So in this context, when it comes to transforming the way that we do sales, it is all components of digital transformation, really. And as many of you guys would know, being, tech experts, is that digital transformation is a long journey. It's not just something that we say we're going to do today and, in a month's time it's done. It's a continual journey. Now, what we have seen is that in the financial services space, the businesses that we work with are certainly focusing on interim milestones to show value now. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that approach. But where the execution goes wrong could result in, really no improvements, because you just end up with more disparate systems that don't talk to each other. And this doesn't improve your customer experience, and it certainly doesn't improve your employee experience. So there's lots of work to be done. When it comes to restoring empathy, we spoke about people, our customers being human. There's still a lot of work to be done when it comes to restoring empathy and relationships back into what has been seen as a cold, impersonal business for a long time. And we also have to just take into consideration that financial services is one of the most complex industries, owing to multiple channels, regulations, and over and above this, very high expectations from our customers. So these are the key challenges that we are addressing with customers at the moment. Now, the laser, I believe, doesn't work, so I'm going to try and guide you through this diagram, but I guess, it's really there just to guide the conversation. But really, at the end of the day, you've got a customer, and the customer is at the center of everything. all right? And if you don't have a single view of your customer that's simple and intuitive, you're not going to be successful in your digital initiatives that you unfold, because it's not just about knowing that Renee is a 35-year-old male living here, etc., etc. You have to understand your customers' preferences and their interests. So we also know, and we spoke about this, you know, financial services businesses are complex, and they've got a whole lot of core analytical back office systems and even CRMs, if you so wish to call it, ERPs, policy management systems, loan management systems, and so it goes on. And so that is basically what I'm showing you over here, right? So with these core business systems, ideally what we do is slot in, as you can see, an operational front office CRM, all right? And it's really important to mention this because slotting in an operational front office CRM enables that flow of customer intelligence data and core data that's sitting within your core systems into the operational CRM without disrupting your current tech stack. And we also have to bear in mind that consumers are going to continue to do their research online, as we heard earlier, but they're still going to want the option to speak to people when they need further assistance. So when they want to speak to somebody, they want to speak to somebody who's knowledgeable, right? And has the ability to help them get an answer on a first call basis or first call resolution basis. So if you look at this diagram right at the top over here, from a financial services perspective, we are not short of acquisition channels or options when it comes to acquisition channels. You've got leads that are coming in from your website, from channel partners, branches, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, all day these things are flowing in inbound calls, right? And this is probably one of the most overlooked area in financial services, because you end up at a call center and then you get passed kind of like from pillar to post. And what we address here is putting in place or dealing with very complex lead distribution logics that make sure that the customer that's calling you, all right, for the reason they are calling you, are then distributed to a person that is able to assist them, that has the ability and the knowledge to assist this customer. All right, I hope you're still with me. So maybe if you want to just write this down, but there's a healthcare company called Practo, right? Practo, they're in the healthcare industry, and I wanted to mention it because I think that in financial services, these guys have mastered the art of distributing consumers to the right care coordinator. And you can imagine how serious this is in the case of healthcare. If you have got an ailment, you want to be speaking to a care coordinator that can help you with the right treatment. All right, it's not just, you know, I need to get a bank balance. But have a look at how Practo has dealt with distributing of consumers to the right people in their team, okay, across multiple channels and irrespective of product. Now, just on this note, while we're talking about, you know, inquiries and leads coming in from these different channels at the top of the slide, your core business systems typically store data of existing customers. But a lot of stuff happens before somebody becomes your customer. And that is where lead management is just so important. And as I've mentioned, you can see the different channels that we've got to deal with. But in financial services, there's another point to consider, is that your cost to generate a lead, so your cost per lead is very high. It's probably the highest in financial services, with insurance and lending being right at the top there, okay? So most financial services businesses that we start working with are losing up to 30% of their leads just because they don't respond in time, don't respond at all, or don't follow up. Now, when you tie those numbers back to your potential sales values, it's a problem you can't afford to ignore. So we call this lead leakage. And this is the first problem that we solve by slotting in what we call a front office operational CRM to achieve zero lead leakage. Now, I'd like to just share with you quickly a little story about one of our banking customers. So one of our banking customers have got just short of 6,000 branches, and they work across 17 countries. Now, they are very reliant on third-party lead generators generating leads for them, and marketing agencies. Now, obviously, with data privacy, etc., they weren't comfortable with these third parties, owning. We spoke about owning data earlier. They were not comfortable with third parties owning or having full control over this lead data that's generated. So what we did is extended this front office operational CRM to their third-party lead generators. So instantaneously, any lead that is generated automatically flows into their front office CRM and then is distributed to the right channel to actually convert the sale. Now, what is the results of this exercise has been that the sales are closing much faster. The third parties have got real-time visibility on these conversions. And what's even more interesting is if you have a look at here, this vertical over here where we have marketing, is that unfortunately, the majority of the leads you generate today will not convert. I wish it was the other way around, but it's not that way. So lead nurturing is absolutely critical. And because everything is completely connected, based on the disposition or the outcome of that call, your consumers or leads, potential consumers, will now go into the relevant nurturing journeys. So what happens is the leads that don't convert today, that convert in the following quarter, are still recognized for that particular lead generator. Just one example to show you why this is so important and shouldn't be dealt with manually. I've got a few more stories, but I'm just cognizant of the time here. Now, there are a lot of options today to go and do online quotes, from a short-term insurance perspective. And to stay out of trouble, I'll use myself as a guinea pig. But I've been trying to get short-term insurance since May. Long story short is that I consider myself to be, tech savvy and kind of with the times. But when it comes to short-term insurance, it's all in the claim. And I'm really, I like sticking to the names that are known. I've been with the same two banks for the last 20 years. And so I want to get a quote from two particular insurance companies. I couldn't do so. The only option they gave me was to leave my name and number on their website to get a call back. Now, I'm not going to do that because to try and get hold of me during the day is impossible, and I don't want to spend 20 minutes of my life spelling my address over and over again to somebody in the call center. I just want to fill in the form, right? So I went and ended up on an aggregator site. I guess you will all know what I'm talking about. There we go, yes. I immediately got, I filled in all my information, got 7 quotes from brands that I didn't want to work with. But the point I'm trying to make is that all that information that I took the time to complete that on is that this is about 3 months ago, right? And still to this date, I have not been contacted by that aggregator, nor have I been contacted by any one of those individual brands. All right, and I've got a premium of 8,000 Rand a month. That's like leaving money on the table. That is what lead management solves for you, and that's one tiny component of the power of a new age CRM. Okay, so this is where self-service portals come in. And so when we deploy an operational front office CRM, like I've said here, it comes with a consumer-facing self-service portal. And for you guys in the tech space, you know, you never have enough resources, never have enough capacity. So our drag and drop portals basically enable you to get to market way faster than what you could do when you've got to rely on internal dev resources to build these tools. And so I thought I would just mention that, considering, you know, staying agile is quite important in this competitive landscape. Now, the last thing that I want to mention on this slide is that besides your core systems, you know, everybody wants to be a super app today. And for those of you who have got apps, you know, that you use within your business as a means to acquire and service customers, there are events that are happening on your app all the time. And there's events that are not happening. So if people are not using your app, wouldn't it be important to be able to aggregate that data in one place where you'd be able to personalize your experiences, your communications, your outreaches at the right time to make sure that you don't have any application drop-off, that you are keeping your users engaged. So that is what having a new age sales execution CRM is all about. Right, then quickly, there's a myth, and we hear this quite often, is that when we speak to people around sales CRM, they still believe that CRMs are only used by salespeople, and that is far from the truth. A new age sales execution CRM connects all your teams that touch a customer during their lifetime with your organization. So literally from the time there's a lead that's captured to an application being completed, support, service, credit checks, verifications, retentions, right through to collections. That is what a front office CRM like Leadsquared offers our financial services customers. Now, the last point in terms of creating high-performance teams. I don't know how you guys do it today. I mean, I left the banking world in 2009, but all I remember is having to call my salespeople and sit for hours to build sales reports for Manco and Exco and all the codes that happen, right? And it was a painful exercise. I mean, I don't know about you, but it certainly wasn't fun for me at all. So a new age sales execution CRM should have a sales performance management tool inside of it. Why is that? Because all the people that are in your teams, all right, are performing activities every day. And it will always be like this. In sales, we do activities, and every activity will have a follow-up task. That is how sales works. And hopefully, these activities and tasks result in a goal. Let's hope it's a sale and a happy customer, right? Now, because you've got a front office CRM where these activities and tasks are happening every single day, all day long, wouldn't it make sense that sales performance or that performance against, whether it's productivity metrics or revenue metrics, are rolled up and available across your organization in real time? And imagine driving the right behavior where your people, where you have incentive plans, can look at their mobile application or their web-based application and see what they've achieved in terms of their incentive value there and then. I mean, that's like, we want to see that as salespeople, like how much money is going to be in our bank account, how close are we, you know, how are we performing against our peers? And so that is what we do to solve, or put together to solve these challenges that our clients in financial services face. Now, I think I'm out of time, so I'm not going to take you through any of my case studies. I'm happy to share these decks with you, but what I would like to do just in closing, I'm just putting this thank you slide on so you don't get nervous. But in closing, you can't provide a connected end-to-end engagement with your customers if you don't understand them. And to understand them, you need to have yes, their data around their name, typical information, but you also need to have their engagement data. These things together, enable you to have a single view of your customer. And yes, I think you can gather by now that I do represent Leadsquared, and I do believe Leadsquared is the best CRM. But irrespective of the CRM that you are using, I want you just to remember this. The reason why you have a CRM is not to just check off that you've got another piece of tech. It's so that you can increase the value that every consumer or customer contributes to your business, and so that you can increase the value you deliver each one of your consumers. And so, as James Clear put it, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So it's been a pleasure talking to you today, and thank you very much for listening.